Hey Frag fam, what is going on? I hope you guys are all doing well. Elliot here and welcome back to the Fragrance Well. For today's video, we're going to be looking at some unisex fragrances. Actually, what we're going to do is look at Parfumo.com and look at the top rated unisex fragrances of all time, according to Parfumo users, that is. And I did do a video about this recently with the top men's rated fragrances on Parfumo.com. Now we're going to look at the unisex ones. I'm looking at this list right now. I got a lot to say about that, but you know what? It's all about a matter of perspective and how you look at unisex fragrances. Let's go over that right now. As far as I'm concerned, there are two ways you can look at unisex fragrances. One is the business standpoint, the marketing standpoint. A lot of brands, particularly niche ones, will market their fragrances as unisex simply because they don't really want to alienate any buyers. They want anybody who likes the fragrance to buy it, whether you're a man or a woman. Doesn't really matter, which is why you'll see on a lot of fragrance brands that are considered to be niche, they'll list everything as for men and for women. And that is the reason why, at least in my humble opinion. And then there is the more practical way of looking at it in terms of a consensus from everyone who is familiar with said scent, whether it is masculine or feminine or actually unisex. In my mind, a true unisex fragrance is one that is straight up and down the middle. It doesn't slightly lean feminine. It doesn't slightly lean masculine. It is 100% up and down the middle. The fact of the matter is, there's really not a whole lot of fragrances in general that actually are that way. And as far as this list is concerned, I agree with that sentiment. So we're going to start at the top rated one and work our way down. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. Before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you do like the content, and please hit that bell icon. Enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. All right, guys, let's get it started. So remember, this is actually the top rated unisex fragrance on Parfumo. It's coming from Xerjoff. This is Naxos. Xerjoff, Naxos. All right, so real quick before I give my thoughts on that being the top rated unisex fragrance, what is the fragrance? This is a sweet and spicy, somewhat fresh honey tobacco fragrance. There's cinnamon facets in here. There's quite a bit of lavender in here. That is kind of the X factor with the scent. It is very, very sweet overall. Again, honeyed tobacco. I mean, it's almost more honey than tobacco in my opinion. Tobacco feature, relatively clean. There's like a dash of like this ashiness in there, but it's very, very slight. And many would say it is a more refined version of Mugler's Pure Havane. I agree with that sentiment. All right, so first of all, this fragrance is not unisex in my opinion. It's marketed as such, but this doesn't smell like something I would necessarily smell on a woman. Now, I'm not saying it's 100% masculine, but I think it leans very far into that masculine category. So automatically, this is not a true unisex fragrance to me. But beyond all that, even so, I would not rank this anywhere near number one. Let me tell y'all something about this fragrance, and this is the complete truth. This fragrance, see that cabinet back there? This fragrance hasn't even been in this cabinet for months. You know where it's been? It's been tucked away in its original packaging in a box I got sitting over the corner over here. All the fragrances in that box are fragrances I either want to give away or sell. Yeah, I don't want Naxos in my collection anymore. Last time I wore it, I couldn't wait to get this off my skin. I don't know what it is about Naxos, but this has got to be the only fragrance in my collection that at one point I held in super high regard, and it just fell from grace as time went along. I got my nose on other things, and I like those other things that were a similar style so much that now I don't care for this fragrance at all. Now, I don't hate it, but I know I'm not gonna wear this. So I would rather give it away or sell it, give it to someone that I know will love it, because I know this is a favorite fragrance for a lot of people. So please don't take offense to the fact that I basically threw it into a cardboard box into the corner, but I'm just being completely honest. But yeah, to me, not a true unisex fragrance and definitely not worthy of number one in my humble opinion. Once again, from Xerjoff, this is Naxos. All right, guys, coming in at the actual number two spot. This is also from Xerjoff. Just a heads up, by the way, there's going to be a lot of brand repeats on this list. This is Alexandria II. Xerjoff, Alexandria II. All right, now, again, I don't really see this fragrance as a true unisex fragrance. I definitely see, in my opinion, a majority of men going for a scent like this. But before I get into all that, this is a fragrance I do hold in high regard, first of all. And secondly, lavender, apple, cinnamon. Guys, I love that combination. And just the way it comes across in this fragrance in particular. I think it's excellent. There is a very nice oud in here. I believe it's like Laotian oud, something like that. I would say that oud, as far as I experienced it in this fragrance, almost kind of a green, woody characteristic. It's not really poopy, in my opinion. It's not fecal. It's not barnyard. It's not that hay-like earthiness. It's not really oily either. It's almost very kind of green and woody, like you're out in nature. And then there's some other woods in here. I think there's like a cedar, maybe some sandalwood. It's warm. It's a little bit effervescent. It's creamy. It's a touch sweet. I love this scent. This fragrance is amazing in my opinion. Completely different opinion of it at this point compared to Naxos. So that's just, you know, this is something I would rank high onto a list, if you will. But again, not really a unisex fragrance in my opinion. By the way, put it down in the comments if you disagree. If you think the fragrances that I say are not unisex are unisex, or vice versa, or whatever. Anyway, it certainly cannot be understated the popularity of Alexandria II. A lot of people love this fragrance. I imagine there's a number of women that love the fragrance, but I think in general, men typically go for a scent like this. So once again, from Xerjoff, this is Alexandria II. All right, guys, we're moving on to the number 3 overall unisex fragrance, and this is the actual number 3. This one's coming from Mason Francis Kirkjohn, and it is Grand Soir. Mason Francis Kirkjohn, Grand Soir. All right, so this fragrance is one of the most popular kind of, I hate to say mainstream, but it kind of is, mainstream amber fragrances on the market. Extremely beloved fragrance from this house in particular. Many people would consider this one of the easiest amber fragrances to wear out there that does have a little bit of character to it. Highly vanillic, relatively sweet, does kind of have this resinous, spicy quality to it. There's even a hint of freshness with like this lavender like quality. Grand Soir is a top fragrance for many people, and you know, that's kind of just a known fact. Many would probably not rank it as the best amber ever, but it's an effective scent. So with this one, in my mind, I want to say it leans slightly masculine, mainly because of that kind of smoky facet that I think notes like labdanum is giving to this fragrance. But here's the deal. If you smell this on a woman, as a man, I think in most cases, and in my opinion, you wouldn't think she smells like a man. And the reason I can say that comfortably is you see this dent in this bottle? I didn't put this in here. My wife did. She likes to wear this and blend it with Baccarat Rouge 540 X-Straight. And I gotta say, this one kind of outlasted the Baccarat Rouge 540 in terms of, you know, like at the end of the day, the vanillic features of it. And I never once thought she smelled like a man because she wore this. So I do think, if we're being completely honest, this fragrance is 100% up and down the middle, unisex. So it is the first fragrance I'm gonna claim on this list is actually a unisex fragrance. So once again, from Mason Francis Kirkjohn, this is Grand Soir. All right, gents, the number 4 fragrance on the list is coming from Tom Ford, and this is Oud Wood. Tom Ford, Oud Wood. All right, so with Oud Wood, I've told the story a number of times as to how this was kind of the first fragrance that introduced me to the higher level of perfumery that does exist out in the world. I had just not been exposed to really anything like this beforehand, and this bottle was actually acquired by me before I decided to become a collector. So just throwing that out there in case you're a newer viewer. Fragrance still smells great. I mean, it still is what it is. Wonderful spices in this, wonderful woody profile. I do believe there's a good amount of cypriol used in this fragrance to kind of give this kind of patchouli / oud-like quality. Many would say there's probably not real oud in this, but you know, we don't really know for sure. But it's warm, it's rich, it's spicy, it's woody. You know, it's a fragrance that a lot of people still hold in high regard. I certainly still do to this day. Now, when it comes to unisex, no, not a chance. There's nothing feminine about this fragrance at all. If a woman is wearing it, it's just because she enjoys the fragrance and does not care. But I think even she would admit she is not walking around smelling like a woman with Oud Wood on. This fragrance to me is 100% masculine, and it is simply a marketing ploy to call this fragrance a fragrance for women. And for men, because brands like this, that's just simply what they do. And even Tom Ford doesn't do it 100%. They actually market some fragrances for men and for women, even though, you know, the sexes do get crossed in terms of who likes to wear them. But again, this fragrance is masculine. So I don't know. I mean, I get it. They're going by how the brand presents the fragrance. It is what it is. So once again, from Tom Ford, this is Oud Wood. All right, guys, we're moving on to the number 5 unisex fragrance. I'm gonna really put that one in air quotes. It's coming from Parfums de Marly. This is Herod. Parfums de Marly, Herod. Now, before I rip this being on this list, let's just talk about what the fragrance is. It is a notable, iconic, in my opinion, spicy tobacco vanilla fragrance. I still can't believe I hated this fragrance when I first smelled it. I don't know why, but I smelled it on a strip. Strips don't really give you the full picture, to be honest. It wasn't until I sprayed this fragrance on skin that I immediately changed my mind about it. So that's that story. Anyway, yeah, spices, really great cinnamon, peppery quality to this fragrance. A really nice kind of ashy tobacco, awesome vanillic notes that are not overbearing. They're not too rich. It's almost kind of dry in a weird way. And then there's just this magic of this fragrance that really draws it together. There's been a lot of imitations of this scent, copycats, clones, etc., etc. And, you know, I'm sure they smell great. But they don't just quite smell like Herod does, in my opinion. All right, so first of all, this fragrance should not be on this list. Parfums de Marly, the brand, is actually the exception to the rule of niche fragrance brands always market their fragrances as unisex. They're a brand that actually does not. These bottles here are the For Men bottles. Sorry, I don't think you guys can see it on camera, but if you look right above my head, that very top row there, that's all my wife's bottles. She's got the feminine bottles from Parfums de Marly because she's got like 4 bottles from them. And they're completely different from the men's. They're marketed as such, and if you smell them, they're pretty doggone accurate in terms of being masculine versus feminine. They don't really have a ton of unisex fragrances. Matter of fact, to my knowledge, I don't think I've smelled a unisex fragrance from Parfums de Marly. So this fragrance should absolutely not be on this list, mostly because it is not marketed as a fragrance for women and men. And I'm telling you right now, the Parfumo list that I'm looking at is doing that based off of the database information, which says it's for men and for women. So somebody just flat out lied when they put this on here like this. And I bet you the other Parfums de Marly's fragrances are listed the same way, but they shouldn't be. This is a fragrance that was marketed for men, and frankly, it smells like a fragrance for men. Doesn't mean women can't wear it, but you get my point. So once again, from Parfums de Marly, this is Herod. All right, guys, we're moving on to the number 6 fragrance on the list. This one's coming from By Kilian, and it is Angel Share. By Kilian, Angel Share. All right, so I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with this fragrance DNA. This is one of the most popular fragrances on the market still to this day. It is spicy, gourmand, boozy, sweet, rich, nutty, woody, a little bit smoky. I like to say it kind of smells like the holiday assortment of nuts that you see around the Christmas holidays here in the States. You know, that collection of like pecans and what else? You might see walnuts in there, chestnuts in there, and they're all kind of sprinkled with that kind of powdery sugar, and they are roasted. So that's what this fragrance kind of smells like, and you add some booze on the side. So that's pretty much what I like to describe this fragrance as. And the thing about this one, this is another one, the second one that I've talked about so far that I do think is actually truly unisex. Now, for me, the smoky quality of this, kind of the smoky oak wood quality of this, in my mind, does make it lean very slightly masculine, but I don't think it's really enough to say that the fragrance is more masculine than it is feminine. I do know women absolutely love this stuff. Women do wear it, and kind of similar to Grand Soir, if I smell this on a woman, I wouldn't inherently think she smells like a man. Matter of fact, the fragrance DNA in general doesn't really match up with that's what a man smells like, that's what a woman smells like. And I do think gourmand fragrances, to an extent, can kind of have that quality to where you don't really think about masculine or feminine when you smell them. That's not all of them, that's just some of them. Just my opinion. So once again, from By Kilian, this is Angel Share. All right, guys, so the number 7 scent on the actual list is Whittian's London. I don't own Whittian's London. I have smelled it before, but that was years ago. I couldn't tell you the full details of what that fragrance is. So we're going to skip to the number 8, but this is actually my number 7, and according to this list. And it's coming from Xerjoff also, and this is 40 knots. Xerjoff, 40 knots. All right, so real quick, just give the quick breakdown of this scent. This is a spicy, aquatic, sweet, honey, kind of sweet amber fragrance. It does kind of have this misty sea breeze air quality. I do even get this kind of driftwood kind of quality kind of hiding in the background there, but overall it's a spicy, slightly aquatic amber fragrance. Very, very rich, very, very powerful, very long lasting, and kind of a cult classic. A lot of fans of this fragrance, so I do approve of it being high up on a list like this. Now, all that being said, to me, this fragrance mostly leans masculine, but I will say there is some room for a feminine profile in this fragrance, mainly because of that amber quality that is here. It's not something that's overly smoky. It's relatively sweet, and to an extent, sweet fragrances, sweet ambery fragrances overall can sometimes work, I think, being closer to the unisex category than it can be masculine or feminine. Just kind of depends on how it's presented. But I would say this leans more masculine than it is feminine, but it's not a true unisex fragrance. That being said, I can understand why this one would be on a list like this, but if I'm being honest, I don't know that women love this fragrance like this. They may like the smell of it. I don't know if they necessarily want to wear it, but maybe I'm wrong. I could be completely wrong about that. Once again, from Xerjoff, this is 40 knots. All right, guys, so the actual number 9 fragrance is also from Xerjoff. It's Torino 21. I do not have Torino 21. I'm pretty sure plenty of you guys do. I know that fragrance is highly popular. So we're going to skip to the actual number 10, and this is going to be my number 8. Yeah, make sure I'm not messing that up. Yeah, my number 8 on my list. And this one's also coming from Tom Ford, and it is Tobacco Vanille. Tom Ford, Tobacco Vanille. All right, this fragrance, another classic from the house of Tom Ford, one of those old school classics. I love this stuff. It is a dried fruits, kind of boozy, rich, smoky tobacco vanilla fragrance. I think it smells amazing. Love this stuff. This one is one that I do think you could say it leans more masculine in my opinion, mainly because of the smoky quality that this fragrance has. But it also is relatively gourmand. And as I stated before, depending on how gourmands are presented, they don't really inherently smell more masculine or more feminine. So I would say I can understand this one being on a unisex list, even though it does lean a little bit more masculine for me, mainly because of that tobacco feature. I mean, the tobacco in this really comes across as like some smoky, ashy tobacco. So that's why I say it leans a little bit masculine for me. That's not something I really expect to smell from a woman. I do not find the smell of a woman smoking tobacco to be attractive at all, but that's just me. But either way, great fragrance that I certainly don't have a problem with being on a list like this or just being high up on a list. So once again, from Tom Ford, this is Tobacco Vanille. All right, guys, so I got to read off a bunch of fragrances on the actual Parfumo.com list because I do not have a lot of the fragrances that come up after the last one. So at number 11 on their list is Initial Side Effect. I don't have it. At number 12 is Xerjoff Accento. At number 13, Louis Vuitton Ombre Nomade. At number 14, Afternoon Swim. At number 15, Tony Iommi Monkey Special. At number 16, Parfums de Marly Wajan. At number 17, Cosmomarati Lyra. At number 18, Tom Ford Ombre Leather. I do have Ombre Leather Parfum, but they do smell different, so I'm not going to count that. Number 19, Xerjoff Oudin. I have Oudin Overdose. I don't really know what Oudin smells like, so I'm not going to count that one. Number 20, Clive Christian Blonde Amber. At number 21, Tom Ford Lost Cherry. And finally, at number 22, Nishane Ani, which is going to be my number 9. Nishane Ani. All right, so this fragrance is a scent that a lot of people certainly love in the community, especially in the collector community. It's another vanillic fragrance that has some green-like notes, has some spicy qualities to it, does come across to me somewhat gourmand. I've always kind of likened this to kind of smelling like a sugar cookie in some weird way. Not that I can ever think of a cookie I might have actually had that smells like this, but I don't know. That's just the image that pops into my head, but a very rich interpretation of a vanilla fragrance. I wouldn't really call it a boring one. To me, vanilla sometimes on its own can come across a little bit boring, even though it smells great, but you get my point. But yeah, this fragrance here, I think is appropriate to be on this list. This fragrance is unisex up and down the middle as far as I'm concerned. Does not inherently lean one way or the other. Some might say maybe it leans a little bit feminine. I don't think so. I think the way the spice profile comes across in this, along with the green notes, as well as the fact that while it is a sweet fragrance, it's not like sugary sweet, falls right up and down the middle as a true unisex fragrance. So once again, from Nishane, this is Ani. All right, guys, so I got to read off a couple more fragrances before I get to my last one. So at number 23, Mason Francis Kurkdjian Oud Satin Mood. I have the Extrait. They have some pretty clear differences, so I'm not going to count that one. Dior Ombre Nuit. I need to get it, but I don't have it right now. Creed Virgin Island Water. That's at number 25, by the way. I forgot to give the placeholders. And coming in at number 26, which is going to be my number 10, also from Nishane, is Wūlóng Chá. Nishane Wūlóng Chá. So this is basically an orange flavored tea fragrance. Does have some very clear orange-like citrus notes. You could say orange/lime, maybe, but I'd like to just say it smells like orange. You do have this very slight fig-like fruitiness in here. Tea characteristic is oolong tea. I think it's well represented in here. Oolong tea is rather earthy, to be honest, kind of earthy and woody, kind of smelling in the by itself in actual tea leaves. But they have plenty in here to kind of counter that, including some musky qualities to soften the scent. Summertime staple, as far as I'm concerned. Great warm weather scent, very bright and invigorating. Man, I didn't even think about it until I started talking about it right now. I think I would say this is unisex. I think overall this fragrance does not really lean feminine or masculine. I can tell you right now, it definitely doesn't lean masculine, but it doesn't really lean feminine to me either. Not enough to call it a feminine fragrance. I think it is a true unisex fragrance. I think tea notes, or should I say tea fragrances, are another one of those categories where depending on how it's presented, it could be 100% unisex, or it could be masculine, or it could be feminine. I think this one is close enough to the middle that I would say it is a true unisex fragrance. And it certainly is one that I think deserves to be on a list like this. So once again, from Nishane, this is Wūlóng Chá. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up this video. That was 10 of the top unisex in quotes, fragrances on Parfumo.com that I actually have in my collection. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about what I said about some of these fragrances in terms of them being unisex or not. I would actually really love to see what you guys think and say about that. Thanks again for watching all the way into the end. I really do appreciate you all. Please remember to be well and smell well, and I will see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.